Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. 2022 was a crazy year. At the start of January, mortgage rates was around 3.5%, the federal funds rate was at 0, and we were just starting to learn and understand that inflation was not transitory. So what will happen in 2023? Well, let's get into it. So on Wednesday, we heard Jerome Powell speak at the Brookings Institute event, and shockingly, he continued to be very transparent about what he thinks the Federal Reserve is going to do. He said that the Federal Reserve is going to keep an eye on two things: jobs and inflation. So we're going to talk about jobs first, then inflation, and finally, we're going to end on what the federal funds rate is going to be in 2023. So the job market is looking very, very good right now. Unfortunately, inflation is not. The Federal Reserve wants to see unemployment increase and actually make a change. And that's because there's about 1.75 job openings for every unemployed person. And that's great if you're looking for a job. Unfortunately, it's not good if you're trying to tame inflation, like the Federal Reserve is trying to do. Another issue is these jobs just might not be filled, and that's because 2 out of the 3.5 million jobs that are available are due to people being retired. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, stock market was crazy high during the pandemic, and people were tired. They didn't want to go back to work. That's because the stock market was so high and their retirement account was very full. Number two, some people were forced into retirement due to the pandemic. Some people got sick, never really got over the effects of the pandemic, and just couldn't come back. And unfortunately, that's going to leave a large void in the amount of jobs that are there and that need filled. There's not enough quality employees in the current employment pool to fill those jobs. On the other side of things, inflation seems to have peaked and CPI data is coming down. And that's good, but not great. If we see another large spike in CPI and inflation, the Federal Reserve is going to come in pretty harsh. They've been transparent and they're going to really hinder the economy. The higher the federal funds rate, the worse the economy is going to go and the rougher landing we're going to have. Unfortunately, as long as unemployment is low, job openings are high, and inflation hasn't taken a drastic decrease, we're going to see the economy get more and more hawkish. Overall, these factors are what making the Fed do what they're doing. We've learned some new news, and the Fed is likely to only raise interest rates by 0.5% in December, but they also said that they're planning to make rates higher for a longer period of time. Based on market predictions, we're seeing it priced in that the Fed's going to get around 5 to 5.5% by mid-year 2023. That's not really a good thing, and that's because they're focused on overcorrecting. They believe that the number one thing they can do that would be bad for the economy is undercorrect. That means they're likely to overcorrect, and that usually causes a recession. As for the economy, that's not good news. As we continue to get these rates higher, it's going to make consumer debt more and more expensive, and families are going to start feeling the pinch even more. The one thing that's holding everything up right now is jobs. We have low unemployment and a lot of job openings. If we continue to see that, I don't expect a recession to be that strong, if we even have one. On the other hand, if we see job openings go way down, if we see unemployment climb, be ready for the recession. If that's going to happen, it'll likely be in the second part of 2023. Finally, we need to discuss the housing market. And there's a lot of different factors to consider when you're looking at this, but one thing that's really important is seasonality. So we're going to be looking at month-over-month data to make sure we're looking at this appropriately. Because as some people know and some people don't, October through December is usually not a very good time for the housing market, and things are just really slow. But if we look October over October, which is the most recent data we can get, see a 5% increase year over year in housing prices. No, that's not as great as we've been having the last couple of years, but it's still not bad considering that mortgage rates are hovering right around 7%. So since the housing market isn't rocketing up, are we going to see a crash? Well, as of now, I don't think so. And here's why. Yes, we are seeing houses not sell over asking price as much. And number two, we're seeing interest rates that are crazy high for mortgages. But what's holding everything up and keeping the housing market strong is the low supply there is for people to buy. And the reason there's a low supply is because people have just locked in extremely low interest rates on their houses. Most people got in right around 3%. So it doesn't make sense for somebody to sell their house, get in at a higher interest rate of 6 to 7% for a house that they probably are going to be able to afford less of. So that's why people really aren't seeing this big drop in housing prices, because these rates are so good and people don't want to sell their current houses. Now, if the Fed does raise interest rates between 5 and 5.5%, mortgage rates are going to be right around 8% based on the market consensus. So will that cause a crash? I'll give you the same answer as above. If we do not have the supply to support that, then no, I don't think it's going to cause a crash. The low supply is really changing things up here in the housing market. On the other hand, if we see rates start to drop here in the second part of 2023, then I actually think housing prices could go back up and start to increase by a little bit more than 5%. We'll see what happens, and it all depends on the Fed, but keep an eye out for the main things: the unemployment rate, the job market, and also what the federal funds rate is going to be. Leave a comment below what you think is going to happen in 2023 with the Fed, the housing market, or the economy. I look forward to reading them below. Well, guys, 2023 is coming up quick, and I'm excited to see what happens. If you want to stay up to date on news on finance or any other economic topic, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. It would really mean a lot, and it really helps us out. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one.